Thank you for being here. Pretty excited about this. As we get started, let me just kind of tell you why we're doing this and how it even came about. I'm Jeff Marchant, Marchant Real Estate Group, Team Limitless EXP. This is my wife, Lynn. Not quite a year ago, we got asked to be on a panel. And our whole life, we've said no to opportunities and uncomfortable situations. Some of the people up here are familiar with that, being uncomfortable. This is weird. If you guys have ever been on this side of the room, it's a little bit different. So anyway, I said yes to being on this investor panel. It was a panel of investors who are also realtors, and she said no. The interesting thing was we both got the same takeaway. I was glad I did it because people came up, they had been inspired, they wanted to know more about our story. But she wished she had done it because she was sitting down here in the front row just squirming in her seat because she had stuff to say. And she wasn't up here on the stool, so she had to kind of just not say anything. And it's interesting how couples have different perspectives, right? We're on the same journey, we're living the same life. But have you ever seen that movie 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, where they have the little screenshots of everybody that's going on in the same day, and they're living the same storyline, but they're playing different roles in that story? I think that if we did a couples panel like this and we did one with just the husbands and then another one with just the wives, you'd go, holy shit, that's different. Different experiences, different perspectives, and then there's the collaboration part of it, which is more of what we're going to talk about today. But because of that event, then Lynn and I got asked to tell our story because we started investing in real estate 30 years ago. We've built a handsome portfolio, and they just wanted to hear how we had done it. The interesting thing was the takeaway that most people had after that wasn't about our investing career. It was the fact that we worked together as a couple. So that was set up. So when I say that part, then you chime in and take the mic.
Well, okay. So anyway, what I loved about it the very most was that couples were actually coming up to us and they were like, yeah, it's really cool that you guys invested and you're successful real estate agents. But what I really got from it is that we were supposed to be here today. And there was two couples I remember specifically that had tears in their eyes that were like, we were supposed to hear this because we've been putting off what we need to do and working together as a couple, and you inspired us to do that. And so when we saw that we were actually impacting and changing lives, we're like, hey, maybe we can do a little bit more of that, especially with, the world's been kind of nuts the last few years, and people need it. They need inspiration, they need happiness, and they need to get together, and that's kind of what inspired us to start doing this.
Yeah, just that passion for sharing. So that led to, I think it was last August, we did this. And Lynn and I were actually on the panel. My buddy Dave here was in this position moderating the panel. And it was a great discussion, and we built some great relationships. In fact, we met some of these people up here because of that last panel discussion. And that's kind of what it's all about. We're trying to create a better agent experience, not just for our clients in real estate, but between agents, right? I keep thinking of all these stories I could tell, but this is their time. So here's what to expect. You want to tell a little bit more about our background, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have our sponsor come up here. Our sponsor is going to tell a little bit about her business, why she's involved with this, and Lynn will introduce her because there's a neat little story there on why she's even our sponsor today. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go, each couple's just going to kind of tell their story, like how long they've been working together, how they started working together, to give you a little bit of a background, because as we ask them some questions to start some conversation, you'll have a little bit of a context on who they are and like how long they've been in real estate, how long they've been working together, those types of basic things like we talked about at the dinner, right? And then it'll just make a lot more sense as you know who they are a little bit. So tell them a little bit about our background, and I'm not sure where Heidi is. Is she in here? There she is. Okay, you're up next.
Okay, so background. We have started, we're both very entrepreneurial, started a few businesses together. Really love real estate. That is, Monopoly was my favorite game as a kid, and always wanted to own real estate. I come from a background of 3 generations of real estate agents, and absolutely love it. When I met Jeff, he was really inspired by real estate as well, and that is why we really connected. Our first date was talking about real estate and our goals and dreams. And we've just been super successful as a partnership together in everything we've done. And then Is there anything more you want to add?
That's plenty.
Yeah,
Why don't you
okay.
introduce Heidi?
Awesome. Okay, I'm really excited to have Heidi here today. As agents, I feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that we're helping our clients connect with a really good lender. Lenders all differ. Some have higher fees, some charge a higher interest rate to get more fees. I always want to make sure I'm connecting my people with the right person for them. And I'm sure all of you that are successful agents do the same thing. Well, I have a guy, you know, his rates are good, his fees are good, and I was connecting him with a client, and that client had actually been connected with Heidi. And so I said, well, I've got this guy too, you know, I really want you to compare him to what she's doing. And this girl, she just kicked tail, and she actually was extremely comparable. Her rates, her interest rates were fantastic, but her customer service was phenomenal. She got that thing done so fast, and I was so impressed, and it takes a lot to impress me. And so I'm really excited to have her here. I think she'd be a great lender for you to try out if you have a client that needs a lender.
Come on up, Heidi. So I want to add to that because I didn't know Heidi before, and normally when we do events like our Top Golf event, or we do weekly trainings at our office that are open to all agents, normally we have people that come in and do a training on whatever they're good at, right? And we share them with the other agents, and that's how they end up being sponsors at these bigger events. This is the first time we've actually had somebody that hasn't been an instructor or a sponsor at our office before because of the relationship that was formed on a transaction on her listing, the way that she communicated. And that's what we all need, is better communication, better relationships, agent to agents and with our professionals. So we're happy to introduce you to Heidi Snar.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I too don't love speaking in front of a bunch of people. But
It's weird up here, huh?
Anyways, the way I could probably sell what we offer is 5-star customer service. I mean, I learned early on, everybody has, for the most part, the same products. One thing that we do have a little bit differently is we are owned by a life insurance company, and we are a Utah start company. So we've been around for a long time. The life insurance company actually allows us to provide other types of loans, no income, no employment, investment property loans. So there's some amazing things. We also broker, so whatever's available, we have it. But on top of all that, I feel like we really do work hard to keep our fees and our interest rates low. We move with the market, obviously, but 5-star service, I started out as a single loan officer, and that didn't work for me because I can't be available all the time and do things like this and still be able to answer calls. So I have a team, and I want to say I think that's the biggest key, is hiring the right people that have your best interest at heart, and you have theirs too. So you'll feel that when you talk to us, you'll feel that when you communicate, and we close fast, everything that you need. It's just it's really our service. And there's a couple agents I work with out here, so I think they're here because they support what we offer to them. So we would love to work with you. If you have anything that you'd like to just throw across our table to see what we can do, I'd love to earn your business. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Speaking of her table, she would like you to come and visit her and say hi afterwards. So I think there's a form on your tables where you can fill out for a drawing that she has. You're going to be giving something away at the end. So fill that out while you're sitting here, while you're listening to the couples and participating. We'll do some open Q&A at the end. Lynn and I will start with some questions at first, because as you remember when you signed up, there was a question on the form, what you hope to take away from today, or what you hope we talk about. And the interesting thing is I compared it to the last couples panel we did and this one, and most of the questions are about the same. There seems to be some categories that everybody's kind of interested in hearing about. So anyway, fill that out, go see Heidi afterwards, and she's got her assistant, and her son Camden is out there to kind of tell you a little bit more about their business. So let's get started. So I could go left to right, but I think I'm going to start with Donnie. You can stay on the stool, but and then I'll decide who's next, so you're all nervous if you're next or not. So Donnie, you start and just tell us a little bit about you and Jen, and then we'll go.
Hello? Oh, shit. Okay. So we're Donnie and Jen Rains. We've been together for 23 years, married 22 of them. We got married in high school, so we met in high school, had kids then, and so started our life pretty early. I started a job with Salt Lake City Corporation. That's what my stepdad did at the time, and that's the only thing I knew how to do to make money. So I did that. So we started working. Around that same time, I had a passion for martial arts my whole life, and when we got married, she was really with my my goals with becoming a fighter. So I became a professional athlete for about 10 years and competed in MMA and did that. Worked at the city job for almost 20 years. Hated every second of that. I was one of those people that I did it to take care of my family because that was the thing that I was told that I needed to do, have that safe, secure income. And so I stayed, but it was miserable. We never had any money ever. We're always paycheck loan to paycheck loan. But during that time, though, we also had a few years where we did real estate investing, which I thought was really great. It got my a taste for that. We did, 10 or 12 deals during that time, and the market crashed. I had the fear of it because I didn't have the right mentors in place at the time. And so went back to our full-time jobs, stayed there for another, that was in 2008. So 2015, we stayed. And then at that point, I just had gotten to a point where I was so frustrated with my life in general, but I hated what I did, that I talked to Jen and said, hey, I love real estate. I think I want to do this full time, and had a big discussion about quitting our jobs. Or at that point, it was quitting my job so I could go do it. And she was all about it. And so 2015, got licensed, still had my full-time job, started on a real estate team because we went through all the trainings and everything that we were at our brokerage, still couldn't get any clients, still didn't know what I was doing. So I joined a team. Learned about internet leads, CR, all the different things that teams do, and I got obsessed with it at that point. I was only on it for about 2 months, got thrown in jail, so I had to take a little break and fix my life a little bit. But I was obsessed with the team structure because of things we've done in our life. I knew that we were leaders. And the other side of it too is going through all the trainings, I didn't think we could do like the SOI concepts that we were learning. And so we just learned how to do internet leads, how to train other agents, and then by the time, I'm all over the place, but 2016, finally quit our jobs, both of us at the same time, and right at the same point, we actually started our production and our team at the same time. I was highly motivated at the time, and so we, for the last 6 years, we've been in production, we've ran a team, done almost 500 transactions, and it's been life-changing. I love it. That's it, yeah.
Jen, you have to say something.
She gave me the mic. She didn't want to do this, so if you guys want to hear from her.
Okay, so I'm Jen. I've been doing sales management since I was 18. I'm almost 40, which is super weird. Just like he said, I jumped into it when he did. I came home and he said, hey, I need you to quit your job. I want to go into this with you, and I already know you have a sales background. So the way that we did it is just jumped in and did it, and it's been awesome. It's been a crazy thing, crazy ride, but we've done it together and we've loved it. Is that good?
How many times can I pass this? Oh, my buck stops here. So, all right, I'm John Romney, my wife Amber Romney. I guess one of the funny parts is I actually grew up with Donnie. Donnie and Amber and I all lived in the same neighborhood growing up for a while. And so we've kind of kept in touch here and there for a long time. But over all the years, it was kind of funny because we got our license in the same year. Mine was January 2015 and his was February. And we hadn't talked to each other in probably 5 years before that. So yeah, but kind of similar backgrounds, just, our parents just did the 9-to-5 job, really didn't, come from a whole lot, but we kind of built what we had together. I actually did automotive glass and home glass for about 18 years before I got my license, and was always doing like the custom stuff. I really got into it and really wanted to do a really good job at it. So I was doing, BMW, Mercedes, all of those. I was doing custom hot rods from ground up, basically doing all the glass work and everything that way. Heavy machinery, stuff like that, just because when we do stuff, I really like to do it well. But after we had our fourth kid, then the bills weren't getting, there was just a lot of, getting really close to payday and really close to the end of the account. And so we realized we needed to do something different. I got my license and worked a full-time job and doing real estate for about 1.5 years before we actually made the transition. And I think once we decided that it was time to go full time, we kind of jumped on the team with Donnie and Jen, and tried kind of doing it together, and they taught us a lot, and we all learned a lot together. But it was about 1.5 years of me doing it alone and a full-time job, to where Amber finally got frustrated of not seeing me. And she said, "Kay, let's figure out a way where you can be home more with us, hang out with the kids and me." And so that's kind of what started it, is she was sick of not seeing me, which is weird. So. But yeah, so since then it's been 5.5 years that we've been working together full time. And I think, anything else you want to add? It's been good for us.
Yeah, it's been really good for us. I wouldn't have it any other way. So.
There's definitely some ups and downs as far as working together, and I think we'll kind of answer some of those questions all together later. But
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's go to the Burdiners, Corey and Rhonda. We had actually met before the last couples panel, and they were going to be on the panel discussion with us and the Cannons and the Jones, and it was a great panel discussion, but they missed out because Corey got sick. So this is a re-invite, and we're glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about your guys' background.
I'm not sickly. I just had that stupid COVID. I didn't want to give it to everyone. So no, but I'm Corey. This is Rhonda. We've been married for 27 years, so we've been partners for a long time. And we were together even 4 years before that. So we've known each other for quite a while, high school sweethearts also. After high school, I went into the military, and I was kind of like a janitor. I cleaned up messes all over the world, and did a lot of special operations stuff and some of those kind of things. So we chased terrorists for a long time, 21 years.
Not we.
And it's a family ordeal though, right? Because every time I left, she stayed back and she had to take care of the kids, and there was just a lot to do with it. So I don't think we talk enough about the families when it comes to military. But anyways, we spent 21 years in that and learned a lot. We both got our degrees. One would go to school, the other one would stay home, the other one would go to school, and the other one would stay home. So it was a pretty interesting time. And all of a sudden we decided, all right, the kids are getting old enough, we better retire and stay in one spot for a little while. So that's how we stayed here in Utah. And at that time, I got my license. I was the first one to get my license. Rhonda was an auditor for the Air Force, and she was pretty comfortable doing that at the time, but she can kind of tell you about that. Basically, I said, all right, I'm going to do real estate. I want to build something. I worked for Uncle Sam for long enough. Doesn't pay super well, just so everybody knows. We want to do something where we could put a few peanuts away. And so we started into real estate, and I retired. I did my last appointment, and then I retired on a Friday, and I went to work with a suit on Monday. So I took over as the CEO. So we're Keller Williams, so it's a different structure. I took over as the team leader in Keller Williams, and that was a shock for all of the agents in that office, to say the least. And it was a weird adjustment for me. So we did that, though. I did it for 3 years, learned a ton. During that time, actually only a few months into it, Rhonda decided she was also going to get her license. And you probably want to talk about that specifically, right?
So yeah, at that point, I had no desire really to be in real estate. I thought it was cool that Corey could retire, start drawing a retirement check at 38 or 39, whatever he was at that time. And I thought, well, good for him. He can go do that real estate thing. I'm going to stay in my super comfortable job with my tons of vacation and guaranteed raises and things like that. I really had no desire. But when I saw him doing this, and I would just kind of help him a little bit, and then I thought, well, I need to get my license so that we're legal for me to do certain things. So I just got my license just to kind of help him on the side. And then if any of you remember, or if any of you maybe have heard, the government shut down back in 2013 for 2 weeks. And I remember my boss actually telling me, well, go home, watch CNN, come back to work when you're told the government's open again. I thought, are you kidding me? So I helped him out, and during that time, I just literally, this is totally not like me. I'm a safe person. I follow the rules. I had a pension and the whole bit. And I said, you know what, I think I want to do this full time. So the way my job was structured, there really was no need for a 2-week notice. We had 1-year programs that I did, and I had just finished one. So I went into my boss on a Monday and I said, hey, I'm done on Friday. And he was like, are you kidding me? Like, we'll keep your job. You can come back. You can try real estate. If it doesn't work, we'll save your spot. And I said, no, you need to take it, because I know if that safety thing is there, it's too easy to go back. So we've been working together since the end of 12, full-time and into 13. And I wouldn't have it any other way either. The way that this has changed our lives is just, it's unbelievable. It's hard to explain. Hopefully we can answer some of your questions on how things work for all of us, and maybe that'll resonate with you. And that's kind of how things came about. So.
Yeah, so we were used to living paycheck to paycheck. Someone else said that, military-wise. And we moved like 12 or 15 times in there too. So we had a lot of things going on during that time. And now, thankfully, we get to work together every day. We've built this up to where we're actually owners of the Keller Williams office up that way. And yeah, we get to train and coach and do a lot of different things, so it's fun. And we get to meet these guys, so thank you.
That's awesome. So we got the Cheneys left, Mark and Kitty. I actually got to know you guys at the last couples panel as well. That's what I love about these, and hopefully we get to form some new relationships on this one too. But tell us a little bit about you guys.
Is that on? Yep, it's on now. Okay, so let me start with, we have been together for about 30 years and married for almost 28. We have 2 children, one newlywed last year and one in college, almost done with his senior year. And so we're in the empty nester stage of things, but we started our business when we had kids and still living at home. So I come from a background of bookkeeping and cake decorating, both kind of do it on your own kind of jobs. And through a random set of circumstances, everyone else here seems to have chosen to get into real estate. I feel like I got drug in kicking and screaming by my Father in heaven. He just would not leave me alone. And so I finally said, fine, I'll do it already. I wanted nothing to do with this industry. I wanted nothing to do with sales. I felt salespeople were demanding and pushy, and I didn't want to be associated with that. And yet I got into this business. So I did that about 12 years ago, and just tentatively dipped my toe in and started figuring this whole thing out, and gradually found a little bit of success with that. And then Mark joined me about 8 years ago, and he'll tell a little more of why he joined in. So we've been operating our business together for about 8 years. And while I do sales, and I feel comfortable in sales now I feel good, and I'm not pushy and demanding. I found that I didn't have to be that way to be in sales. Mark found his home with property management. And so we team up in those 2 different lanes, and we work very well together in that arena. We just refer back and forth to each other. And let's see, then I have moved into the role of I'm the sales mentor in our brokerage, and I have served as the president of the Women's Council of Realtors last year. So I've just been diving into further expanding my reach in this industry, and I want to get where you guys are at for dinners with the coaching. That's one of my goals now. But Mark, if you want to tell your part.
So yeah, this October will be 30 years since our first date. So I'm the one who remembers the dates. But when we first met, each of us had our own direct sales business, and we married and combined our businesses for about 12 years. And then the market tanked, and I took a job with GE that moved us here to Utah. So I retired from IT after 25 years, and she says that I had to get a realtor's license because I was sounding like a realtor, and I was going to get her in trouble because I didn't have a license. And I was just promoting her, which is what I'm good at. And so 30 days later, I had my license. People go, how'd you do that? I got treated like a full-time job. So just made it happen. And so I did 6 months of just doing regular sales, had 2 transactions, decided I didn't like the paperwork. I'd worked for Microsoft in sales, even as a field engineer with GE, I was also doing sales. And I always knew that having a base salary was what was needed to be comfortable and being able to do commission sales. So property management was what I saw the way to go. And I grew up doing property management or pretty much flipping in homes. Before school started, before I started kindergarten, I'd moved 11 times in the state of Washington. And then all the other times that I moved between then and the age of 24, I had moved 26 times, or my things had. I'd go off to college, come back, new house just for Christmas. I'd only be gone 6 months. So there was one time we moved into a place on Christmas Eve, moved out the following year on Christmas Day. All we did was upgrade the carpet and landscape the place, and we made 17 grand. So it's just something that I grew up doing. So property management and doing real estate was just a natural for after retiring from 25 years in IT. Anything else?
Oh, there's more, but
you know there's always more, but I think that's pertinent.
Perfect. You said you had a good question for me.
I think a lot of people wonder how we do it as a couple and how we make it work. And what I've noticed with everybody and with Jeff and I is that we take the strengths from each person and we kind of run with that. You probably have an extrovert and an introvert, or maybe someone that's a little bit more outgoing and someone that's not, someone that's good at bookkeeping, whereas the other one's really good at sales. And so I think what's really interesting about everyone is that they all do their business different, and that's something, to pay attention to. Is Rhonda and Corey really like to do their deals together, right? You guys do everything together. Jeff and I do them totally separate, so you just have to figure out, what works for you. And I think what you'll notice with everyone is that they do utilize their personality with what they're doing in their business together. And I just wanted to point that out, to be unique and be you.
Cool. I have something I want to share on that I heard a little while ago. Y'all probably listen to podcasts and read books and stuff. If you're familiar with impact theory with Bill Yu, they actually did a podcast where they were talking about their superpower as a couple. And the analogy she used was likening that relationship to playing tennis. Sometimes you're on opposite sides of the net, right? And you're hitting the ball back and forth, but somebody's got to win. And the way she explained it, and the way I resonated with, is they chose to play doubles, where they're on the same side of the net. The interesting dynamic with that is you have to reveal your weaknesses and communicate with your partner where she's strong, I need to play off that, and where I might be weaker, that's where she can pick up my slack or whatever. Or if I miss the ball, she's gonna hit it, right? Vice versa. So I like that analogy because we're on the same team, we have the same goals, we're working. Because you could say, oh yeah, we're couples, we work together in real estate, but do you really work together, right? And so that's kind of what I want to start with is, what have you guys figured out in working together that has maybe helped you as a couple be on the same side of the net and be able to work together as a team and not kill each other? So let's start with the Romneys. Don't give me that look.
Okay, so working together is, there's lots of different ways to do it. Ours is we're working towards the common goal. And I think that's kind of the most important part, is like nobody else is more invested in our business than we are together. And so we do totally different things. Like Amber's more behind the scenes.
Yeah, I do all the marketing and all the advertising and follow up and bookkeeping.
Yeah, where I do all like the initial conversations, the initial reach outs, things like that. But then it gives me time to stay in front of the clients, and because marketing can take up a huge part of the day. And so that's like when I was working full time and doing real estate, it was hard to find time to do all the marketing, schedule showings, go out and do showings, things like that. And so that's where she came in and kind of freed things up. But then it turns into, she found a real passion doing the marketing and research and things like that. And we never really knew that was a passion of hers before.
I love it.
Yeah. So we can work together towards the same goal, but do completely different things. Like she kind of stays out of the deals. I do more of that. But she'll organize all the paperwork when it's all done, which can be time consuming as well. And she's really, really good at that, where I don't really like organizing things. She's way more organized than I am. She even helps organize me, so that's awesome. But I don't know, anybody?
So Amber, how did you kind of define your role in that, where he was the agent? I'm just going to point out, Amber's the only unlicensed agent or team member up here, but you found your niche, you found out how you can help and work together as a couple without having that license. So how did you work into that?
So, when we joined the Rains' team, Jen didn't have her license at the time either, and so she taught me how to do all the advertising and follow up and things that you can do legally without having your license. And I love it. It makes me so happy. And we have 4 kids and 1 daughter with special needs, so for me to still be able to help her and be with her while John works just makes everything work, and we're happy.
Yeah, she can make her own schedule, and she's way better at social media than I am. So yeah, I'm not very tech smart as far as that stuff, and she's really good at it. So that's kind of her strength is all the social media stuff, and that's my weakness. I would be nowhere if it weren't for her as far as social media is concerned.
That's awesome. I'm not going to call on everybody. Just whoever feels like they have something to add or share, just speak up.
Well, I do have something to add or share. So Mark and I used to really butt heads, really butt heads around things. In particular, I felt like he would get some big grand idea and drag me off to disaster, and he felt like I was digging in my heels and not allowing us to grow. And so we had just major challenges around that. But then we learned about something that I will recommend to all of you is the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And the Clifton Strengths Assessment is put on by Gallup, the same company that does the Gallup polls. It's an excellent tool to learn more about yourself and about your strengths. They rank you on 34 different strengths. What are your top strengths or your superpowers? And what are your weaknesses that you can divulge to your partner so that you can help and cover for each other? And when we took that assessment, we learned some things about each other. We learned that Mark's superpower is looking far ahead and seeing the goal and seeing the vision of where we could be, and he can see it like it's right there in front of us. He wants to get there now. My superpower is seeing the roadblocks on the way. And so I was digging in my heels saying, wait, I want to prepare for these. So because we learned about those 2 different superpowers, we were able to create an agreement between each other where he can envision this big grand dream, and then he'll pause and give me time to prepare for it. I'll prepare for it. I don't take too long, but I will prepare for it, and then we can go, and we run together, and we have great adventures doing that together.
I wish you would have taught me that 25 years ago. Dead serious. I could have used this panel when I was in my 20s.
Well, you guys are like us.
Yes.
She's the neck that turns the head. So she says, where points me in the direction I want to go and gives me marching orders. And I go and do. I ask her, so at the beginning of the year, I asked her, how many transactions do you want and how soon do you want them? And so just this first year, I've got 15 referrals to her. We're working with 6 of them right now. The rest are looking to buy in the spring. So she tells me what she wants, I make it happen. So I'm very good at speaking things into existence and just give me marching orders and I'll go that way. And so that's my superpower is I've got that futuristic and I talk it into existence. She just tells me what she wants. And with her feminine energy, she brings the deer to the front door. I go out the front, boom, bun, bag and tag, we're done. So it's just feminine, masculine energy type thing, but it works. Because we understand each other's superpowers now, which makes it so that we're not arguing with each other because I'm, upset with her dragging her feet and she's upset because we drove out of the driveway and I took a left when she wanted me to take a right type thing.
Love it.
I love that. You guys don't argue at all. I mean, you guys don't argue, right? I mean, I feel like Jeff and I are a lot like these guys.
We argue. We're just aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses in the middle of it and honor that.
No, well, you had to learn that. You had to learn that. And so that's why this panel is amazing, because you're actually learning something that might really help you now, that you don't have to go through the struggles that some of us did. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
I would say for us, I mean, for all of you guys that are couples out there, you're all gonna have different visions and you're gonna butt heads, right? But figure out, just like they said with the personality, we did the disc test. I'm a CD, he's a huge D and an I. But we figured out that with us both doing calls, that's how we started out. I am kick-ass at calls and he is kick-ass at negotiating on contracts. So we figured out our two different personalities, what our strengths were, and I would do the calls and marketing, just like she said, which, by the way, she's kick-ass at marketing, so follow these guys. And then he would go do the negotiating, and he was killer at it. So figure out your guys' strengths and play off of that, and you guys will do amazing. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, like your roles are going to change. Like that's the other thing. Like when I started, like it wasn't about Jen doing the phone calls and all that stuff. That's not how it started. I was doing the phone calls. It was, you know, and then you know, she started doing the phone calls and I was like, holy cow, she's way better than I am. You know, and she's sustainable. Like it's not something I can do all day. I can't sit and make phone calls all day. Like I might have like 5 good ones, but after like I'll get bored of it. Like, and I'm just not going to have good conversations. But she can do it for some reason, like 8 hours a day, like nonstop, and get it done. Okay. And so that was great for me because yeah, it freed me up to be able, because I want to work with clients. Like getting clients, like not my superpower, right? That's not. But if I have a client, if she can bring me somebody to get in front of, then I can crush that deal and I can serve them at a high level, you know. And so that was like, it was great for me because I started to realize, man, I don't know. It was
cool to figure out.
Yeah, I just wasn't. I was having doubt about sustainability doing it, and man, when she took that role over, I mean, that's when our business took off in general. But it's nice. But that's so the thing. I guess what I'm getting at is things evolve. So start, you know, with what you're starting with, and then know that things are going to evolve as you start to see each other's strengths. And for us, it's easy, and like a lot of us, because we've been together a long time. And so by the time we started, we were already married 15 or 16 years, and like we already been through so much that we knew each other's personalities and strengths pretty good. So that definitely helped.
I think it's super important to be able to pivot, right? Just because you made a decision at one point in your life or in your relation doesn't mean you have to stick with it your whole life. You can change your mind, you can find a better way, you can put down something good to pick up something better. And I think there's a lot of separation with the couples that have already shared, but I know out of all the panelists, the Bernardiners probably are more of a team doing things together than the rest of the panelists. So I want to hear more. I want to hear
Kind
you
of.
guys'.
So when we first started, I think it's just because Corey was in the military for so long, and my job, I traveled. When he was home, I was gone, and you know, vice versa. So I think when we first started, we were like all excited to do this together. We'd show houses together. We'd go to listing appointments together. We did everything together. And we had a coach at the time, and his exact words were, "You're a disaster." And we were like the top producing team in our brokerage, winning all these awards. And I was like, what do you mean we're a disaster? I get it now. We weren't as productive as we could be because we both don't have the same strengths. So once it just naturally evolved. It's not like we sat down one day and said, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine. It just happened. There's things Corey does not like to do. I don't even know if he knows the password of how to get in to write a contract. Like, I really don't know. He doesn't do that. He goes out and does the deals and comes home and throws a folder on the table and says, here you go. And then I take it from there. And that just naturally happened. And you know, depending on it really doesn't matter what your personality is, you can do anything, right? Like I could making calls is not my favorite thing to do, but when I started, that's all I had. So I did it. I wasn't comfortable doing, I didn't like it. So how awesome that I don't have to do that anymore, but I know that I can do it. It's just that my battery was so drained at the end of the day, it wasn't fun. So now that I'm comfortable where I'm at, Corey's comfortable where he's at, we still do a lot of the same things. Like, I know all the transactions, I know all of his people, but he's out with them, and I'm taking care of things on the operations side. So it naturally happened, and it's a lot more fun this way when you're where you're at in your strengths. So.
That's absolutely the way that it worked. So we learned a lot about natural behavior versus learned behavior. I think that was a big thing for us too. So kind of the same way of saying it, I guess maybe a different way of saying the same thing that's already been talked about, but that was a big thing for us. You can, like Rhonda said, any of us in here could be put into and do something if we had to do it, but is that going to charge you or is that going to drain you every day, right? So when you get home at night, are you happy? Are you excited? You know, that kind of thing? Or are you like, oh my God, I need to shower and get to bed like now? So we didn't want that to be the case. So, you know, the natural versus learned behavior was a big deal for us. And we started, you know, divided into those lanes.
I think that's super important. Okay, I'm going to move on to a little bit of a different topic that seems to be a consensus that people are curious about, and that is separation between personal and business time. With Lynn and I, there really isn't any separation. Just be transparent there. It's like, even our kids work for us. So it's like our business card is our family photo. And we love it.
Well, and it's not really work for us when it's work with us. We work as a family.
Right. So, but I mean, it's not so great for the kids as it is for us. But when most of your life is spent working, right, what you do, to me, it's really important that we're on that same team and we're working together towards the same goals, because that's what we talk about on our downtime. If we were in different professions, I might not care about what her day-to-day operations were in her business, more or less just how she felt or how she's doing and that kind of stuff. But when we can talk about our clients and we understand each other, that's huge. So basically, there's not a lot of separation in our life, but people want to know from you guys if you have any boundaries, if you have a system or a structure to keep personal time, and business time. So whoever wants to start, who has an opinion on that, go ahead.
I can start on that, I guess, if that's the case. But, so we don't really have any boundaries either. She's the best wife in the world, so why would I not want to be with her all day? You know, that's the way I look at it. And we unfortunately had to be apart a lot when I was active duty, and that was, we had to, like, you know, grab your bags and go and do your job. So it was, to me, it's confusing when people say I couldn't work with my spouse, because why not? Like, did you pick the wrong one, or what happened? I don't know. So that's just my opinion on that. Anyway, yeah, you want to say something?
One thing I do want to say, if you're the type of person that really needs that boundary and you're like, I don't want to talk about work, let's just make this about us. Corey and I volunteer we do marriage mentoring for people, and one thing that I learned years ago, actually from the military, once he came back from a deployment and we went to this reintegration thing, and they said, do a date night, but don't just do a regular date night. Don't talk about work and don't talk about the kids. You'll stare at each other and you'll be like, oh, I can't say that. Okay, what about this? And it just makes you kind of reconnect. So if you need that time, I would say try to use that as maybe an idea of something that you could do.
Yeah, I mean, on a small scale, I mean, still run with, you know, she has time, she goes and does her nails, and she does, you know, whatever, that kind of stuff, that's fine. But we don't specifically say we're going to be doing this separately, right? Our life is a journey together, so.
Yeah, I think you got to love what you do. That's the other big thing. You know, like you've heard a lot of us that got into it, we kind of come from a place where we didn't enjoy what we were doing and was not satisfied. And so when we got into this, hopefully we all should like kind of have a love for it, a little bit of a passion for what we're doing. And so if that's the case, then it's actually okay to you know, be working all day long. Like the boundaries. It was different like when we had full-time jobs because we hated it. So we'd come home from what we were doing and I don't want to talk about it. I hate it. I hate what I did. I hate what I do. I don't want to talk about it. But now we do things we love, so it's like it's perfectly fine to you know, talk about work all day or be involved in work all day. But we do have, as far as like a schedule, we try to keep, like we work from about 9 to noon. We have a morning routine that we do, but 9 to noon, we try to do the most work that we can just so we can open up the day for things as much as we can, whether it's clients or personal time. But if work takes all day, it's totally fine, you know, because I love what I do. We both love what we do. Like, we got the same problem. We got the best wives, and it's fun to hang out, you know, all day. So, you know, the thing that I've noticed, at least for us, is don't miss date nights. That's going to be like the problem. I'll notice a shift in her because she's not like mouthy, but she'll get an attitude though, like without. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then, oh man, missed the date. So, you know, it's okay to work a lot in this industry because you get a lot from it. But yeah, make sure you're taking time, do your date nights and stuff like that. That stuff's not too hard to miss if you pay attention. But it's actually, again, I love it. I did something, you know, for almost 20 years that I hated. Doing this for 6, I wouldn't change anything. I'd work all day long if we had to. It's never a burden at all. You want to say anything?
Go ahead. If you had something you can do.
I was just going to say, we work on holidays. We got a $1 million listing on July 4th because we worked. We've worked on Christmas and we've done deals, and I mean, it's awesome. If you, just like he said, if you love what you do and you love who you work with, then it can be amazing. So I don't know, I don't really have anything else to add to that, but it's just awesome. I don't know. I'm working with my best friend.
That was just an exclamation mark. Boom.
And I would echo all of that of working with my best friend. It's a lot of fun. So the way that we set up boundaries in terms of between our home and personal life, we also have the 9 to noon office hours that we focus on getting the majority of our work done, and then we'll go work with clients after that or do whatever office time we need. But beyond that, what we found the most success with is planning ahead. So we specifically look at the entire year and we plan out vacations in advance so that we've got that family time dedicated. And we'll plan it out through the entire year. And we'll plan at least one big family vacation and one romantic just us vacation, and some smaller things along the way. We'll make sure that we've got those planned, something we can look forward to every quarter throughout the year. And then we plan around what conferences are we going to, and if we can tie a vacation on with that so it's tax deductible, that's always nice. Yes. And then we'll plan our date nights in advance. So we have, for example, season tickets to Hale Center. We've got those already planned out for the entire year. We know when date nights are coming, and then we'll squeeze in more along the way. But it's that advanced planning and making sure that we know what to look forward to, because you get down into the nitty-gritty of this business and you're too busy to plan a vacation. And you need one desperately, but you can't plan it because you're so busy. So we've already got it planned. We know what's coming. And so that really helps us keep that personal time. Another thing that I did when I first got into this industry, I was just serving my clients as best I could and canceling family things in order to do so, because I thought my clients needed to be most important. That's where the income was coming from. And so I shifted that eventually because my family was thoroughly frustrated with me, understandably. And I started referring to my family, goodness, I can't even say the other words now, my family events as appointments. They're all appointments. If it was going to my kids' game or going to a play that the kids are in, it was an appointment. I'm sorry, I'm already booked at that time. And then I could book around my family things and make them that top priority. And my family loved that. They appreciated being the top priority, as they should be. So we've got a lot of flexibility in this industry with our schedules, and we just need to manage that and make sure that we keep our family priorities in there as that first priority.
So what makes it so that she can be so successful, be the president of Women's Council for Utah County and all that, is that I'm somewhat domesticated. No, seriously, back in the early 2000s, I was an independent contractor doing IT work for the government. So if you were a squid or a jarhead, NMCI, I did that for you. I put in the Navy Marine Corps Internet Service. But that was working nights, and so during the day I was Mr. Mom. So that Lone Star song, that was me. And so now to make her be able to have the time she needs, I know how much you women do to maintain the home, but all she does is the dishes. I do everything else. Because I've got the time. Doing property management, I'm 9 to 6. I'll answer the phones till 8, but I'm pretty much the one with most of the time, so I make sure that she gets taken care of. And that's not just bringing home flowers for her, that's definitely making sure the home stays in order and things don't get into chaos.
I think, yeah, definitely a good share. One thing that's fun is all of us, I think, are in different stages of our business. And so, you know, they've built a great business, and they're still going to continue to build, which is awesome. You know, some of us are still actively building and still raising kids and things like that. So I think our date nights or certain times that we spend time together are more on the fly. We do still keep our clients as a huge priority. Our family's a huge priority as well. And so yes, we do have days or times that we don't do things for clients, that we focus on our kids. But as far as us, we kind of do the same thing. The morning routine from 8:30 or 9 o'clock until noon or so, we'll be in the office and doing all of that stuff. But we love to go to lunch. So we'll go to lunch together, and kind of just tuck our phones away, and that's our quiet time away from clients and the time that we just kind of hang out with each other. And the good thing about being in business together is even though it's not technically business, we take the time to set goals and plan out what we're going to do to achieve our goals, and change some of our goals, because everybody's life is always changing. And so that's kind of what we do. Sometimes dinner will just instantly, you know, if a client reschedules, hey, client rescheduled, let's take the kids out to dinner and we'll go do that. And so a lot of our stuff is kind of on the fly. Vacations are kind of, we haven't made that a huge priority yet, but what we love to do is camping. And so we've got the trailer and the four-wheelers all locked and ready to go. And same thing, if a client reschedules, let's head up to the property. Let's take the kids to the kids out and let them ride some four-wheelers, and we'll go kind of do that. And so it's kind of awesome to see, you know, people can plan things, and other people just, when it comes, just take advantage of it and do it. So.
You guys are amazing, really. I get to sit here and listen. You know, one of the questions that we had, and being the person that does do the books as well, and the finance, is when you're both working in the same industry and there is a downturn, or let's say when COVID first hit and we're all like, oh my gosh, are we going to go through another financial crisis? But you're both in the same industry, you're doing the same thing. How has any of you gotten through something like that as a couple together? Have you been in the industry when that's happened? And how'd you get through it?
Well, I got in right before the market crashed. And so that was fun. Some of my first deals were short sales. So I have been through that.
Meth remediation.
Oh, yes. And Mark's saying in meth remediation. Yes, my first deal was a meth house. Anyway, that was fun. Yes, we've been through the market tanking, and you just find the deals in different places. You learn different skills and still serve your clients to the utmost, and you just pivot a little bit. And in another way of answering your question, Mark mentioned that he was Mr. Mom for 3 years. Well, he worked in the IT industry when the dot-coms bombed and that whole industry tanked. And that was fun. That's when he shifted into Mr. Mom, because I was the one who could earn stable income. And I couldn't earn as much as he could, but I could earn stable income then. And so we just would jump in together, and whoever could earn the money at the time, that's the one who did, and whoever could take care of the kids at the time, that's the one who did that. And we just jumped in and did whatever we needed to do, and honored each other's strengths as best we could at the time. We hadn't taken the Clifton strengths at that time. We didn't know a lot. Yeah, you dive in and learn and pivot, learn new skills.
It makes it pretty easy to sit down and collaborate and decide what you're going to do next, because you just look next to you and say, hey, Kay, this is what's happening. Like, what do we want to do? Let's figure it out together. You don't have to, you don't have to explain it. You both know what's going on, and you both know ways to fix it. It's just how creative you're going to get together and make it happen.
We learned to take out adversity and turn it into opportunities. COVID was actually where our business grew the most. With property management, people were panicking and selling off their homes. Well, who are they going to use? And then other people saw that as an opportunity and were buying homes. I grew up in Washington State in the 70s when Boeing was going through big layoffs. My dad was working for Boeing, survived through the third layoff. There was billboards up that said, last person out of Seattle, turn out the lights. But one of our good friends, who now, he's passed, but he had some Dairy Queens that he owned because he bought homes during that time and turned them into rentals. Because they were depressed homes, he was able to purchase all them up and was able to make his fortune doing that. And so we learned from that is that anytime there's an adversity like this or a downturn in the market, there's always an opportunity there to turn things around and do well if you keep the attitude of doing well. And so when that was happening for us during the COVID, she was wondering, how are we going to do this? Well, property management kept us afloat, but also because of all that, I was giving her a lot of referrals, so our whole business grew.
Anyone else want to add to that? Jeff and I aren't on the panel, but that's a big one for us too. It really is.
Yeah, the first adversity that we had, back in the last market when we were investing, it was a good lesson for us because we thought we were doing okay, and we were part of an investment club. Maybe I won't name them, but we were part of that investment club screaming, no bubble, no bubble, and so I just thought it was going to be this thing that lasted forever, and then it crashed, and again, we had like no good mentors to like show us, no, there's a pivot. You can do something different and still make money and still be successful. We quit and just stayed at our full-time jobs. But that helped a lot because in 2020, when the pandemic hit, everybody was kind of freaking out about what was going to happen. And for us, it was like, man, thank God that happened because we had nothing but highs in the real estate industry when we got licensed, and then that hit. But because of what we went through, we realized, okay, we have an opportunity now to not fail again and pivot and do something different. And right away, we started having team meetings with our team and training on how to do things differently and shift and work on mindset to know that it's going to be okay, But we did that, going through the last crash together is what is helping us right now not get worried about all the craziness that's going on.
And I think surrounding yourself with good people too, that think like you do. Because in the last recession that Jeff and I were a part of, we owned a lot of real estate at that time. Jeff didn't have his license, I didn't have my license. And I remember we could lose like $20,000 a month and we were just freaking out. Both of us were. And I know he was concerned, I was concerned, and we weren't coming together. We were both in our own world, struggling apart. And once we came together and we realized, oh my gosh, we're both going through the exact same thing together. We could lose all 60 properties we have right now, lose our home, move into one with one of our folks if we don't come together. And what I remember we did was we started looking up at the mountains and just being grateful we could see. We started being grateful that our children were healthy, and that changed everything. Everything just came together for us. And so, I don't know, that's a really great part about being together and also having great friends that support you too.
We're moving on. Anybody have anything else on that one? Okay, so kind of to pivot from that conversation, kind of a two-part question here. What are you guys doing to prepare if that happens again, earning-wise, investment-wise, security, plan B and C, right? And then along with that also, not just the earning part of it, but the learning part. Like for instance, I love it when we were listening to the same audiobook together. How many of you have, you're all, kind of couples in here. Have you read the 5 love languages? Everybody? Last time I asked that at the last couples panel, there was one lonely gal in the corner that hadn't read it. Everybody else had. But Lynn and I listened to that at the same time while we were driving to Sparks, Nevada to visit our grandkids. So there was a lot of pausing, a lot of conversations, a lot of dialogue that happened because we're listening to the same thing and we both had opinions to share with each other on our takeaways of that. So I'm curious if you guys learn together, if you do something similar, and also the earning part. I learned a little bit about what the Berdinners are doing this last year when we were actually at dinner. Sorry, you don't hear that very often, do you? Some of the investments they're making. So what are you guys doing to prepare for that type of a situation should it happen again? And then also the learning part. I want to know what you guys do together or if you do it separate.
So Kitty and I spend over 10 grand a year in personal training. Either having a personal coach or going to seminars. When something, or the joke is when something happens that doesn't go the way we had planned, we go, so how much was that seminar? Because we learned from it. But as far as what we would do if there was a downturn and something happened, I've had a dozen careers. I started out as commercial fishing. I've done everything through IT, direct sales, whatever. So I don't really worry about what I would do. But she has some great talents, and so I think we'd be able to survive. But one of the things that we've done to put things in place is we've made sure that we have all of our insurances. So we have our life insurance, we have disability insurance, we have all the insurances we're supposed to need and have those covered. And then she's all about learning, so I'm gonna let her talk about the training that we take.
On the preparation part, we are moving into building our team bigger so that we can kind of spread the wealth, spread the risk, spread the learning and the education, and work on developing their businesses in addition to our own. And that's helping us in the preparation piece, and we'll move into coaching them and helping them with whatever they need to prepare for, rather than it all depending on us and how our connections work. We can spread it around. And then as far as the learning piece, yes, we do always have a coach. Always, always. It will shift from being a business coach to a personal coach to a marriage coach to whatever, but we're always working in some area of our business or of our lives and business. And that has just been a huge benefit to us to always have that coach helping us grow in some area of our life. And I think that answers that question.
And learning to get out of our own way.
Yes, and learning to get out of our own way.
I saw the mic on you.
Either way, it doesn't matter. So we have learned through time that obviously you got to be flexible, right? Flexibility is the key, and you don't ever know. So, example, on the battlefield, you can prepare all day long, and when you get out there, things are going to happen. Right? Stuff's going to change. It's going to be different. It's not going to be exactly what you thought. So, with that in mind, we like to be able to react to things. We have those hard conversations, take ownership of something, and sit down and figure out a plan and then execute. You know, a lot of people will kind of hide, or they'll put their head in the sand, or that kind of stuff. That's just obviously not going to get you anywhere. So we learn flexibility is the key. And then, of course, planning is important. Like, we've done all those things too. We've got our trust, and we've got our insurances, and we've done all those things, and we diversify where we invest. But, you know, we're working on short-term rentals right now, which is kind of fun. They're cool. You don't buy one just because you want to go there, right? You got to make sure that it makes business sense. But it does help when you want to go there too. So. I'm sure everybody else wants to. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. So we have some long terms, and not nearly like these guys have, but we have long-term rentals and we have short-term rentals. And also, when adversity hits, you know, when COVID came out, we were like, all right, I guess we're not going into people's homes for a little bit here. I didn't want to know or didn't care to know what Zoom was, but I found out really fast what that was and how to use it and how to make it work. So that was just one little example of how, hey, we're doing listing presentations on Zoom now for a while. So anyways, being flexible, being willing to do that, being willing to have those hard conversations, and then when you're surrounded by good people, making sure that they know, hey, we're all going to get through this together, right? We're taking care of each other. No one is being left behind.
And one thing too, as far as investing, last year we made a goal. We said, let's buy a house a quarter. And to me, we had never done that before. That seemed huge to me. But when you get that goal in your head, all of a sudden opportunities just come right in front of you. It was so cool. And we did do that. We actually bought one a quarter, and then bought one this January. And now we're actively looking for another one. So we made that goal, and I'm like, we need a bigger goal. Instead of one a quarter, maybe it should be one a month. But it was cool that that was one thing that we wanted to do to prepare, because I love real estate. I don't necessarily want to be slinging this many deals for 20 more years. So that's just kind of one thing that we've talked about doing, and we had that goal together. And in the past, Corey makes really big goals. I'm not quite as big of a goal person as he is, and he's kind of drugged me up to his level, which is pretty cool. So anyway, I'd encourage you to do that, is sit down as a couple and decide where you want to be and make those goals, and then really start looking for ways to implement them.
Yeah, and part of the motivation for us is we want to hand it off to, you know, we have family also that's involved in ours. In fact, we've got our daughter here and her boyfriend, so we've got people around us that we want to build this up to a point where we can say, hey, here's something that, you know, you can step right into. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're helping build it too, but we're all building it together so that they have something that can have them, you know, have a bigger life than we've ever had. So, what was I going to say?
So the way that we started preparing when it happened, because we run a big team and we spend a lot of money on what we do, So we really, like, at least for me, my mind went right to, okay, we got to sit down and look at our finances and make sure everything makes sense right now. Are we spending money on things that are actually giving us money back, or are we just wasting money? Because that can kind of happen in this business, especially when you start living in abundance. You can spend more money on things that don't make you any money. And so that's what we did is went through and started getting rid of a lot of bad debt that we had, things that we didn't need to pay for anymore. Had a big impact. Temporarily, we actually just got rid of our office space. We had a ton of office space, but it just didn't make sense anymore at the moment, right? And so that was the first thing we did, is like, how can we cut monthly expenses? So that way, if we have months where us or our team's not generating a lot of income, we're not underwater with it. And so that was helpful. That was really good. And then, like these guys are talking about, we're doing this. If you guys are helping people buy and sell real estate, you should be reinvesting your money back into that product. Or else, I don't want to do tons of deals no more than any of these guys do for the rest of my life. It gets kind of daunting after a while, to be honest. It's fun, but you'll realize there's a better way. And so buying real estate, and that's really the way out of this for us, because we don't have a pension, we don't have any of that, and that's really, in short terms, by the way, they talk about short terms. You guys should try to buy one. It's a lot of fun.
They're fun.
Yeah, it's a lot funner than long-term rentals, at least in our opinion. So.
I think it makes you more authentic too, right? So when you're out talking about it, you're counseling someone, or you're out there talking to your clients. If you're actually doing it, then you're not just telling them to go do it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, as professionals, we should be talking, like, we should be investing, and we should be talking to our clients about helping them do the same exact thing. Adding value to it for sure.
Yeah, and we've spent thousands on coaching too, just like that they said. It's super important. You should totally do it, because they will help you pivot. And when you don't notice a problem in your business, somebody else, a third party looking at it, will say, hey, you guys need to fix this issue so that you can pivot. You do it so much faster with the coaching. He's in Tony Robbins coaching. He's about to get certified. So that's really cool. But the Airbnb's been a lot of fun. And it's a lot of gratification, because people are always complimenting you. Like, they love the space. They love how awesome, the hosts are. We got super hosts. So, that's something really cool to do with it too. And supporting each other. We always support each other. So when somebody's having like a down day, then the other person's there to build them up and say, no, hey, let's think of it in a positive way. Let's look at the positive things and being grateful. That's huge for us.
Yeah. Working as a couple, that's the thing. We're both experiencing the same thing, but we both might experience a little bit different, and which is nice. Sometimes I'll be more level-headed than she is, or vice versa. And again, we're experiencing the same thing, but we can both help each other experience it better if one of us isn't. So that's it.
I think even kind of taking this to a simpler level for those of you that are just getting started. When I got my license, we made a goal to where we would have a year's worth of bills covered, paid for, money in the bank. And then that's when we quit our job and went full time. But even still, we keep at least a year's worth of money in the bank. Aside from investments, aside from all of that, just because liquid cash, you never know when, that's the quickest to get a hold of, and, that helps sustain everything. If other things are performing bad, you always have that money in the bank. And so that's where that was our first step. And then we still keep that in mind today. We always have at least a year's worth of bills and everything in the bank. And then all the money on top of that is where we do the investments, and we diversify, as well, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, like they say. And then, the coaching, one thing that a lot of mentors and coaches will say is people can take away houses, they can take away cars, they can take away everything, but the thing they can't take away is the 6 inches of space between your ears. So everything you learn, you can hold on to. There's been lots of business owners that have failed and rebuilt it, and failed and rebuilt it, because they know. They've got the coaching, they've got the knowledge that nobody else can take. So you can always rebuild if you have the right knowledge. So.
I'm looking at you, Amber. Do you have anything to add?
No.
We heard from everybody but you. I'm just asking. I'm not putting you on the spot. I like that several of you mentioned kind of the same thing. It's I mean, investing for our futures is important, and our families and our legacy and that kind of stuff, but it does amazing things for your business. I'm usually surprised when I run into agents that don't personally invest, or at least don't have that as a goal, because people are hiring you to help them with this type of a transaction. It goes a long way when you personally do it too. In fact, a lot of our business comes from that. It's like from people that want to do what we've done. We've built a pretty handsome portfolio of real estate over the last 30 years. We started really, really young, and that's a talking point. You know, your Airbnbs, your short-term rentals, telling that story on what you're doing is like a magnet. It attracts to people. I've always wanted to do that. It's going to spark an interest on maybe you're the one to help me, since you're doing it for yourself, not just for other people. Then you're going to have a different insight in how you make decisions because like when I got my license, I had only invested for myself. It was quite a transition to learn how to help somebody else with their transaction and what their goals were. And I had to figure that piece out, but the fact that I had done it myself made it a lot easier. So I think that's a great takeaway from all you guys. So another thing that a lot of people wanted to hear from the panelists, from the questions that we received, is kind of take us through like a day in the life of, like, what's a typical day for you guys on what you do together, maybe what you do separate, kind of like that common theme that runs throughout most of your days. Share that with us.
Sure. All right. Everybody's looking at me. I'll talk. So basically, we wake up and we'll do some type of physical fitness. That's important to us. So we have workout regimens. Rhonda is a personal trainer also, so she doesn't do it for a living anymore, but it's fun to have that knowledge in the house. But anyways, we do physical fitness type stuff. We do some prayer time or some of that. It's usually pretty early, and then we try to be in the office or at our desks, so to speak, around 9-ish, 9 to noon, something like that, kind of like everybody else has said. And then in the afternoon, it's time for appointments. So we have a 2 to 4 time slot for people that are not 9 to 5ers, and then our 9 to 5ers, we have a 6 to 8 slot. And of course, those can be filled in with other things that need to be filled in for if we don't have an appointment in there. But that's an outline of a day for us. Yeah, the way we communicate that and the way that we make sure everybody's on the same page is everyone on our team has access to the Google Calendar. So everybody knows exactly what's going on, and if something comes up, you can, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. Everybody's heard me say that 7 million times. So that's important for us, and everybody can stay on the same page. Everybody knows where everyone is and what's going on, and nothing gets missed.
Ours is pretty similar. Once we wake up, we just kind of take a little bit of time for ourselves and do what makes us happy. So I'll work out, and then she kind of does like a meditation and just kind of getting ready, because you got to take a minute to put yourself together if you're going to help put everything else together. And then pretty much right about 9, we pretty much share a desk. Our chairs are right next to each other. We'll sit down and kind of do like morning affirmations, write down goals, things like that, to get kind of mentally in the right space as well. Remind yourself what you're working for or what you're working towards. And then it's just responding to emails for me and looking up what houses we're going to go show for clients later that day or me. And then that's when she does the marketing stuff as well, and we kind of take that few hours or so to do that. One thing that I think is cool is all of us talk about like office time from 9 to noon. Like when you had a real job, like what was your office time? It wasn't 9 to noon. When I was doing it by myself, my office time was 9 to 5, and then I was out in showings in the afternoon. And so doing it together, it cuts down on that time to where you can free up the afternoon for things that need to be scheduled or showings and things like that. But yeah, then afternoons, is either showings or that's when we have our break to go to lunch and wait till the kids come home, and then I go do showings after that, depending on the clients that we're helping at the time. So.
So for us, basically, we're up pretty early. We get up at 5 a.m. every day, get out of bed. We have like a morning routine that we go through, breakfast, affirmations, we exercise, and you know, we have a list of things that we like to do in the morning to get kind of prepped. And then again, our work day starts at 9, and we have a little team right now, and so we're virtual, so we'll jump on Zoom, you know, have like a team huddle, do whatever we need to do there, and then it's on the phones after that, you know, until about noon. And then depending on where we're at, we do another like team huddle with our team and kind of see how everybody's phone calls went, see what we can do to help, you know, wins, losses, stuff like that. You know, and then various things between that time, because I don't do the phone calls anymore, so I might be doing a training on coaching or helping, you know. It's kind of interesting because I used to manage the team and run the team and kind of do all that, and 2 years ago, Super Jen got promoted to that, and she's way better than I am at it, and having her do that, a lot of those things, it's kind of weird because I have a lot more time than I even ever imagined in my day. And so I'm actually in the middle of kind of working that out right now, figuring out how to fill that space in a little bit. But otherwise, you know, we do that till about noon. We're both usually done, and then we're just available if we have to go show clients' homes or if anybody on our team needs to talk to us, because we're available for them, you know, 24/7. But yeah, really, this isn't like the hardest industry. That's the cool thing. If some of you guys are a little bit newer, you just need to figure out exactly what you have to do with your day, because it's not that, like a lot of these days when I hear agents say when we got into it, they're working all day long, kind of doing nothing, you know. It's actually a pretty easy industry if you dial in like what you need to do, and that's why we're able to, you know, do something, or get a whole day's worth of work done by noon. So.
I would also say read the book, The One Thing, with Keller Williams. It'll tell you what you should start out your day with, because a lot of people, they think they have to multitask and do all these different things, when actually that's not going to work for you. So if you dial in what your one thing is, do that first. Like for us, it's our calls. We're calling our database, we're setting up appointments, then everything else will follow. I've seen a lot of people that have failed out of the industry, not a ton, but you know, certain ones, where they start their day with social media. And that's not going to make you money. So you have to find the one thing. There's tons of ways to do real estate, but find the one way that you like to do real estate and focus on that and do that first, and then go to the rest of your tasks. But totally have a schedule.
Yeah, so I learned working for Microsoft doing sales how to do a daily routine. So I start off for the first 2 hours, I'm answering texts, emails, voicemails, anything that came in overnight after 8 o'clock. I don't answer my phone after 8 unless it rings through because it's family. And so I'll do that, and then the next 2 hours I'm doing follow-ups. So whatever is in my CRM or in my inbox, if I happen to do, I do follow-ups. Then I take a break, and then I do repeat that for the afternoon, unless of course I'm going out meeting with new investors and touring new homes and landing deals. But that's how the same routine every morning. On Mondays, we have our team meeting. I'm the branch broker for Vision Real Estate's Lehigh branch, but we have a team of 4. That's how we started out with that. And so we have our team meeting on Mondays. On Tuesdays, then we have a meeting with the entire company through Zoom. And so we always know what's going on, coming up with other people, how we can help, do some training, that type of thing. It's pretty much it throughout the day until about 6 o'clock, where she works until whenever. But what I find that helps with ending your day is to spend a minimum of 15 minutes writing down the tasks that you need to do tomorrow. That way you can get it out of your head, and then you can have the evening with your family, or you can do whatever you need to do because you've got it all down. You know what you're going to do first thing in the morning. Because if you don't do that, then it stays on you, and then all of a sudden you're getting less than 8 hours of sleep. You're depriving yourself. You're not making time to take care of your body. Even if you only go for a 2-minute walk down to the mailbox and back, you need to do something to take care of yourself, no matter how small it is. And that's what works for us. Did you have anything?
Someone there mentioned the shared calendar, and that has really, really worked well for us, to where we can see each other's calendars as we are booking out the remainder of our day. We know we're our 9 to noon in the office. We know that part, but anything beyond that in the afternoons, sometimes, I mean, working our 2 different lanes of management and sales, sometimes we have a client who's going to be doing both. They're moving out of a home that they want managed, and they're looking at buying something new. So we can I will book an appointment for us to go together. In order to do that, I need to know his calendar. And so that has worked really well that we have that ability. We're both using Google Calendar. And for those who want the actual software to use, I have hunted down and found on Android, I don't know on Apple, but on Android there's software called Business Calendar Pro that allows you to turn on and off the shared calendars. So I can see his when I want to. When I don't want to, I can turn it off, and it doesn't clutter up my calendar. That has worked beautifully. Our assistants can each see our calendars, so that when they're working with us, reminding us of what we need to be doing, they can see what's going on.
I just want to second what Mark said too about making a list of what you got to do that next day. We have just a whiteboard in our office where, you know, we'll write down certain things. We do have electronic calendars as well, but I'll go in like each night and I'll just make a list on the next day, like kind of like a punch list. Everybody knows what a punch list is. We just write out our punch list. So when we get up and go finally into the office around 9 to do our stuff, we know the most important things that we need to do first and then carry on with the rest of everything else. And it does let you sleep a lot better. Instead of just laying in bed thinking, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. It's already written somewhere. You already know, so you don't have to think about that all night long. So it's a good one.
Okay, perfect. So I just have one more question, and then I want to open it up to some Q&A from you guys. So be thinking of a question that we haven't asked that you guys will have an opportunity to ask of the panelists. But you guys all seem so super sweet and stuff, and I want to know if you fight. What I mean by that is sometimes you can speak very direct and stern when you're in work mode. Like Lynn and I are very transparent. Depending on when you might be around us, you're either thinking, oh, they're so gushy and so sweet and they love each other so much, or you're going, that marriage isn't going to last. There's no way in hell they're staying together. But we have given each other permission to not like get our feelings hurt if we're really, you know, when it comes to business, it's different, right? About a transaction or a client, or sometimes even goals, you know, we can get pretty heated, and we should have done a demo here today. It would have been fun, but I want to know if you guys ever kind of get in that mode where it's like, hey, we're in work mode, alpha's coming out or whatever, and this is the way it's got to be, and you have that disagreement.
Our biggest disagreement has to do with what she just said earlier, where if we have an investor who's wanting to turn their home into a rental, but they're also going to be buying one. So I'm working with them on the rental side, she's working with them on finding a new home, and she or I are coaching each other. Never coach your wife or your husband. It doesn't work. But sometimes we step out of our lanes because we're concerned about our client, but we're concerned about the same person, just in two different facets. So we learn to stay our lanes. And also, we agreed a long time ago that it's not important about being right. It's about being heard. Okay? So as long as you're listening to what they have to say and not trying to win the argument, but try to understand their point of view. Because, you know, Mars and Venus, you know that book. You know, it's just what you've got to do to be able to survive. And if you give up being right, that solves so many problems.
Okay, I've got 2 points to bring up on this question. Number one, yes, we do fight, but we, as Mark said, we just honor each other.
They don't last very long.
They don't.
No.
And we are hyper aware that if we've been rude or in some fashion not as caring as we could have been, we go back and we apologize, because this connection between the two of us is the most important thing. It's more important than our clients, it's more important than our kids, this connection here, because if this connection is disconnected, our business suffers, our family life suffers, our entire life suffers. So we make this connection be the utmost priority. If anything comes up that disturbs that, that becomes the top priority. Doesn't matter what else is going on, resolving that and working with each other and finding a way so that we don't run into that roadblock again becomes the top priority. And so Mark talked about Mars and Venus, but something that we've learned quite a bit about is the difference between masculine and feminine energy. And we all have both. We all have a little bit of both. Women tend to have more feminine, men tend to have more masculine, but we've got a little of both. Feminine energy loves to be to feel safe, to feel protected, to feel provided for. Masculine energy loves to do that protection and providing. And so Mark mentioned the analogy of the deer before. Let me expand on that one really quick. Feminine energy, us women are really in our feminine energy is magnetic. It literally draws to us opportunities, resources, and people. And so it's really important that for us that I stay in that feminine energy. And so Mark really tries to take care of me and provide for me and make sure that I
flirt with her every day.
And make sure that I feel safe. Because when feminine energy feels unsafe or uncertain or unsure, we try to take control and we get bossy and demanding. And our business just tanks. It suffers badly in that regard. So we really work on making sure that I feel that safety, emotional safety, physical safety, financial safety, all of those pieces, because when I feel safe, we just draw things to us. It's amazing. When I feel unsafe, I start grabbing control or digging in my heels or whatever, and it all suffers. So Mark works on his masculine energy of being that protector provider, and it's not a matter of who makes the most money, because sales, quite frankly, does make more than management. But he's providing that stability, and we just constantly are working on that difference between masculine and feminine, and making sure that we stay our lanes there. Then the next piece that tends to trigger arguments is boundaries. We talked about the boundary between home and family life, but there's other boundaries. There's boundaries between our roles of which lane we're in within our business. And so those boundaries can be, I will liken it to two neighbors next to each other. If there's no property pin, if there's no fence, if you don't know where the property line is, it's so easy to step into the other person's lane, step into that other person's property. We know the term encroachment, it happens out there. And rarely is it someone's intention to take over, to step into their space. Rarely does that happen. It just happens by accident. And it happens in our relationships as well. And so it's, when that occurs, it's important to know that it does happen by accident. And don't be angry or upset with the other person who has stepped into your space, because they didn't intend to do that. They weren't trying to get in your space or step on your toes. However, it's also important to know that the person whose toes are being stepped on tends to be more aware of it than the one who's doing the stepping. And so it's important that the person who is feeling like their space is invaded, that you speak up, that you say something. Say, this feels like it's my space. And maybe it's that Mark is telling me how to do sales. This feels like it's my space, but let me handle my lane. It's important to speak up about that. And then for the other person who is doing the stepping, it's important to listen and honor that, and not push back and be defensive. And so that understanding between each other, again, that connection is so important, and staying each other's lanes is so important. Because you'll feel more connected with each other and more connected with your clients when those boundaries are being honored. I think that answers that one. Anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, you covered everything you wanted to.
Okay.
That was absolutely amazing. Jeff was pinching me. He's like, oh my gosh, we need to hear this, right? But I mean, when you have two strong personalities, I think what you're talking about really, really resonates with us. So thank you for that. I'll be calling you sometime, I'm sure. Give me counseling. Just kidding.
Anyone else?
So you talked about the 5 love languages. So we got introduced to that book about 10 years into our marriage, because just at one certain point in our marriage, it was rocky, and it wasn't looking good. And we both got recommended this book. Like, we didn't know that we got recommended it, but we both were like reading it and just getting all these like aha moments from it. And then she starts messaging me out of the blue. I start getting all these text messages because she like cued into exactly how to communicate with me, and it was like hitting all the right points. It was pretty awesome. And so the point I'm getting at with that is that books like that will help teach you how each individual communicates and how they need to be communicated with, because we're totally opposite, me and her, with how we communicate. But that book was like the first step for us to really like realizing, oh, this is why we're butting heads a little bit, because I'm trying to satisfy you this way when this is how you need to be talked to, And so that was like a big step into like learning how to communicate, because the key to working with your spouse is like just learning how to communicate with each other and learning to not take things personal, because we both can be super spicy when it comes to like getting angered, and some dumb fights have happened because of that. But one of my most recent coaches, he just said something super simple that's like changed my life. He's like, are you really getting mad at the emotion or the event? And I didn't know what he meant at first, but then, in talking about it more, it's really, it was always about the emotion. It was never something that her or anybody did to me, really, right? It's about the emotion that I couldn't handle, and me being like a big baby about it. And so once I learned to focus, okay, it's just the emotion. I'm being a big baby right now. I've been able to, like, at least on my end, pull myself like right out of it and start a fight, but not keep the fight going. Just be aware of it. Like, she didn't piss me off. I got issues, so.
And knowing how to like stop a fight, like he was talking about. So we did the love languages, which really, really helped. But the one thing that we would fight about a lot is nav. Because I was in charge of nav, and he would be the one driving, and I would be looking at it and telling him when to go right and left for a little bit, and then I'd go, looking out the window, just spacing off, having a good old time, and then Nav's all, turn right, turn right, turn right, and he's like, I missed it, crap. So we would fight about that, but
that's like
in order to fix that, now he has the little dash mount where I don't nav, now the machine navs. So just doing little tweaks like that, fixing things like that. Whatever you fight about is not a big deal, just like he said, it's the emotion, and just figuring out how to fix it.
I think, it's the difference between men and women and emotions. Sometimes I have a hard time with emotions, like I don't show them, and I have a hard time taking them into consideration. Where on the other hand, she's very emotional, but one thing that I've learned in with her emotions is seeing the other side of it. And honestly, I think it's made me a better agent, because now I can take those emotions into consideration, and then I can create kind of a connection with not just like the husband and then friendly with the wife, but I can actually understand both sides and what they're both thinking, because I deal with it, we work together with those all the time. So do we fight? Yeah, absolutely. Everybody does with emotions getting involved. And yeah, there's business and then there's relationship, but when you're working together, sometimes those lines get blurred. So, there's things that happen in real estate. You're helping a client for 2 or 3 months, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're going to hold off. Is that emotional? Yeah. Is it irritating? Yeah. Are we going to fight about it? Probably. But it is kind of the same thing, because she's looking at it from one point of view, I'm looking at it from another. And sometimes it does take a minute to come to common ground. So you just, like they said, everybody said, you kind of just need to figure out how to work past it and work past it quickly, because those negative emotions can affect your business. But, yeah.
I think I had to learn about myself first, because I'm very jump out there, just kind of figure it out and fix it, and it doesn't always need to be fixed. Sometimes it needs to be listened to, right? That was a hard one. So learning how to listen was big for me. Like, I had to learn how to do that. And at the same time, I'm still thinking in the background and I'm listening, but I still want to fix something like right there. But it's hard. So that part, learning myself, was a big part of that, I think, and probably both of us. Just figuring out who we really were and maturing through that, and then of course, caring that the other person is taken care
of. Nothing, Rhonda? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, there's a lot of talk about emotions, which brought to mind an analogy that I used to describe how to clear out or how to work through negative emotions. And so if you imagine that I have just a gaping wound in my shoulder here, it's all covered up by a jacket, it's bandaged up, none of you could tell, but it's there. I don't really, but anyways, imagine that it's there. And so if I'm walking down a hallway and somebody bumps me in this shoulder, oh, excuse me, and we move on. If somebody bumps me in this shoulder, I'm gonna freak out. Well, when we bump into someone else's triggers that they have inside, some old wound, emotional wound that they have, they're gonna freak out, they're gonna overreact. And we need to know that it's not his fault for bumping into my shoulder. He didn't know it was there. Well, I mean, he's my husband, he would have known. But if somebody else walking down the hallway, they wouldn't have known. It's not their fault that they bumped into my shoulder. So it's not reasonable for me to dump all of that anger on them. This is my wound, I need to clean it up. I need to work through it. And so if we understand that, we can be patient with each other when I'm freaking out and he's accidentally bumped into me. He can be patient with me because he knows I'm injured or I'm hurt in that old emotional wound, and I can work on cleaning it up so that I'm not so overreactive. It's my responsibility to clean up my old wounds.
I love that. That's a great analogy. Sometimes we don't know when we hit somebody else's trigger, right? Hey, I want to be respectful of your guys' time. We had planned on going till noon, and some of you probably have appointments to go to afterwards. So I would like, to give an opportunity if anybody has a question, either for just a single panelist, a couple, or for the group in general, to ask a question. I don't think we need to really pass around the mic. We can hear the question. Who has a question that you might want to ask?
I've retired 3 times in my life. I'm looking to retire for another time. I'm going to be 57 this year, so I don't have much more time to go before I've decided that I just want to coach. I don't want to do property management anymore. That's why I'm moving into the branch broker position. Looking to train up another property manager to take over my portfolio, and so I can just coach and spend time with her on cruises and other places in the world. So our big goal for 5 years is to have enough of our own properties to be able to have a residual income, go serve missions, and be able to help our kids. Our daughter's a realtor in our business. She's my assistant now, but she's also been trained up to be a property manager. My son followed me in IT. He's going to be graduating in April in computer science and information systems. So he's going to be an investor. He's already working for the church. It said it's a long-term internship. It was supposed to be short, but they extended it because they like him so much. And he's looking to do that. So that's what we're looking to, is to help other people. We want to do volunteer work, but we're looking at the next 5 years of making that happen. So it helps.
I guess. Like just 5-year goal, is that what the question was?
Yeah, 1, 3, 5, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, our 1 year is like kind of always the same. It's always about a certain amount of production and all that. So those are exciting, but our 5-year goal, or like I have a number in mind, 45 years of age is 41, and I'd like to have enough residual money coming in from investments to not have to work if I choose not to, And we're still working that out. Like it's not super defined on paper, like super defined, but it's it's basically what we've talked about: sell a lot of real estate, buy investments, building up other ways of residual income that we're working on, and keep growing the team with like-minded people, and we'll get there.
We're kind of along that line too, where we have a daughter that's going to graduate in 6 years, so by that time we want to have enough residual income, of course, coming in and that kind of thing, but we also have a goal that we want to build up so many millionaires around us. So we're looking at that as part of our legacy. We have it set up where we'll be at $20,000 a month. We should be able to live on that, I think.
That's about the same for us. Our goal is $20,000 a month. It could be different for everybody. I think across the board here, we're all different producers. And so one of our important things is not just producing, but also having the family time as well. And so we have a number in mind that we want to do each year as far as transactions, which will, one, take care of us financially, allow us to keep the money in the bank, and allow us to do investments. But then it also allows time for the family, because we've got that kind of figured out, so we can spend time with our kids and each other and still have all the money that we need and good life. So, but yeah, I think that number is kind of different for all of us, or we just kind of like that round number of 20 grand a month, because that can give you many options. So, and I think that's what we all kind of like, is having the options.
So I do, like, a lot of the coaching I do is like for myself, personal development, stuff like that. And and in turn to train my team. That's kind of what I do it for. So I'm doing it for me, so I can be better, and then really not to go become like a Tony Robbins coach, or who knows what the future holds. I do love coaching people, especially one-on-one. That's where I'm my best. But essentially the certification is going to be so I can go help my team be better. That's actually one of the things I love the most about, especially since she's the manager now and she runs the team, is I get to have my one-on-ones with them, and it's more like what do we look, personal, like more personal stuff. How, I like to help them talk about buying their own real estate or what's going on in their personal life and stuff like that. So.
Do you think you're energetic enough to get that across?
What's that?
No, it's been where one of us connects with a client and the other one doesn't. It's been more on the other side. I don't
think hate would be, that's probably strong.
Because we're being recorded, so I'm not going to say hate. But there are some clients that I just notice Corey just connects with them better than I do, and he just kind of naturally takes over.
Yeah, I mean, there's different segments of society, right? So obviously if someone's military, I'm going to have a certain brotherhood with that pretty much right off the bat. So that allows me to have that different type of relationship. And then there's some times where, they just connect with Rhonda. Rhonda's more of a caring mother hen kind of feel versus I'm not that way at all.
Yeah, so for me it was super easy. Like I just wanted to find something that worked. And so I did, like I said, I did the training at the brokerage we were at, tried those strategies, didn't work for me. Then I started on a team and internet leads came in. And I realized, okay, my SOI didn't want to work with me yet, because that's not, I wasn't a realtor to them yet, and so it wasn't going to work. But I could call these internet leads, and they knew nothing about me other than I was a realtor, and it gave me a better opportunity to get them to know me, like me, and trust me, and create clients that way. And then doing that made it so my sphere worked with me. But for me, or for us, it's been internet leads, and it costs money, so you can find different ways to get them. But that's one avenue. But there's so many different avenues to do in this business. But pick one and just go all in on it.
I was just going to say, be on every social media platform, and then look at your platform and see how your audience is going to be connecting with you. So whatever you have on your Facebook, Instagram, whatever, make sure you clean that up, because your clients are watching. They are going to look you up. They're going to look you up on LinkedIn, Facebook, all these other different platforms, and they're going to say, I connect with that person, and then they're going to want to work with you. So find out who your audience is, who your target audience is, whoever that is, and then target your marketing to that person. And do videos. Don't be scared of videos. Do it. You got to be out there. This is a good one for Amber.
Good one for Amber, but she doesn't like to talk much. When we get out in public, I'm the one that talks. When we're at home, I'm the one that shuts up, and then vice versa.
I can't shut up when we're home.
But as far as the marketing, what I've seen her do is, you start with what you're comfortable with, but then like Jen said, you kind of gear it towards the people that you want to reach. So you find out where your SOI is the most active, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, wherever your SOI is the most active, that's probably where you want to start and focus for a little bit. But Amber's always researching how marketing is changing, because what worked 5 years ago isn't necessarily the best avenue right now. And so it's always changing. And so you kind of, like she said, gauge your responses, engage with the SOI that you have the most in common with. Start there and then kind of branch out from there. But definitely do your research on what's working or how to do it correctly, because bad marketing can do a lot more damage quicker than good marketing can take, if that makes sense.
Okay, the answer I've got to that question, if you remember, I got into this industry wanting nothing to do with it. And so I started with internet leads because I didn't want to be the pushy person with my family and my friends. And so the internet leads helped me to kind of get over my initial hesitancies and figure out what to do and how to serve clients well. I didn't do well with internet leads. I actually do none of them today, and they are not the avenue that I wanted, but they worked for me at first to get me over that hump. And then I just gradually started turning real estate into my life, because my leads come from my SOI and from Mark's property management. And so by turning real estate into my life, I mean when I'm sitting around the table over lunch with some friends and they ask me, well, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I went and toured through a bunch of model homes for my clients, and you wouldn't believe the cool things that they're putting in these model homes. And it just became what I talk about. This is what I do. And I would go do fun camping things or whatever with my family as well, and I would talk about those. It wasn't only real estate, but I would talk a lot about real estate and what I was doing in real estate. And my friends got to know that, and they would start asking me questions. And I would be asked while I'm out walking the dog, hey, what's happening with the market, and how do we deal with that? And it just became part of who I am and what my life is. And my SOI started calling me.
And for me, I got into networking, so BNI, then can be part of Women Councils of Realtors, so you should check that out too. But Dale Carnegie, public speaking, getting to know what your elevator speech is, just practicing that, talking to people. I also find that videos, YouTube videos for your homes works really well. So with property management, I don't have to do as many showings now. People are interested in property, they see the YouTube video, they decide if they actually want to take a tour instead of me having a whole bunch of looky-loos. So it works out really well. It's also convenient for the tenant or the owner who I'm showing the home for to know that the person that's coming to see the place is already pre-qualified for interest in the place. And those YouTube videos, I'm just doing a virtual tour, works really well.
Like besides spiders? The thought that's always on my mind now, I'll just admit it, is like, shit, are we gonna be, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, are we gonna be okay? Because, it's a stressful business. Sometimes you're making 50 plus grand a month, sometimes it's slow, and it can be kind of a mind game for a lot of us, So my fear is that, and it's something I work on. I like to live in abundance, the mindset. So that's where I'm at, but that fear, it's real, we're human, and that's something we deal with. But
I think, we kind of practice to not focus on the fears, but they are always out there. But I think earlier we all talked about planning for, kind of the future or downturns. And I think when you take that minute to plan and execute on that plan, then a lot of those fears go away. But as far as fears, I think our biggest fear is health. If our health declines and we can't do this, but then again, if you plan for something, then that kind of fear goes away. Yeah.
I would say I don't have any real fears. Honestly, I know where I'm going when I'm done, so I'm not really too worried about too much as far as that's concerned, as far as fear. But I do not want to disappoint family, right, and the people around me. So I guess that would be, disappointing those people.
I have a fear of drowning. That's why I'm getting my scuba license. So, yeah, you plan ahead. I think in our discussion we were talking about fear in our Facebook group about, and I like the idea that fear is actually just excitement amidst chaos. So if you're planning and you're organized and you've got a place that you're heading towards, the fear's dissipated. You're not really having to experience it because you have an answer. If you're not happy with plan A, what's your plan B? Because plan A if plan A is not working for you, then you need to have a viable plan B. And that dissipates the fear.
On that topic of chaos, I'm remembering a quote or a past affirmation that I used is when chaos hits, that's when fear can happen because things are falling apart. But I created this statement that chaos is simply the universe rearranging itself to fall in line with how I have declared my world to be. And so things sometimes have to fall apart in order to come back together in a better way. For example, out in the 9-to-5 world, you lose a job, you get fired. Oh, horrors, now the income's gone, it's fearful, it's scary. But maybe that was because you needed to reapply for a new job or get into real estate or get into something that aligned better with you. And you wouldn't have done that if you didn't lose a job. So sometimes chaos is the trigger for something coming together better. And it's not a thing to be afraid of, it's a thing to look for the opportunity.
Well, and I agree with some of your comments. Like Corey said, he calls it disappointment. He doesn't want to disappoint somebody else. It's just a label, right? Fear can be a great motivator too, or wanting to avoid things that potentially could be fearful. So I like those comments that y'all shared. Does anybody have any last comments or questions? Go.
Yeah, so we market as a team actually. So when our team is marketing to their sphere, maybe they haven't done a listing yet or they haven't worked with a buyer yet. Hey, guess what? I'm backed by a team. And we actually go to all the showings together. I love looking at houses, but I don't want anything to do with the negotiating. He does that. And when we go on the showings together, people are like, hey, you guys are like a HGTV couple or something like that. So that's been really fun. But yeah, we do market that way. We market as the whole team. You're getting all of us, which is awesome.
Yeah, we market together as well. We've actually heard a statistic that a husband and wife together, you'll increase your income or whatever by 25%. I don't know where it came from or if it's even true, but I think our broker has said it once or twice. They noticed a difference when they did it as well, because our brokers are husband and wife as well. But we kind of feel like it brings that extra sense of security. So for women, they connect sometimes better with women, vice versa. And like they were saying, emotionally, like women like to be safe and things like that. So that kind of brings in that as well. Like, yes, you are getting both of us. Yes, you're getting both sides. You're getting the caring side, and then you're getting the business side as well. And so, yeah, we market that way a lot. And we have noticed a difference in certain marketing campaigns, that they react better when there's both of us versus when there's one. Because I'll be honest, I have two sets of business cards. I have one with a picture of both of us, and then I have one with just a picture of me as well. And I'll decide which card I use by which client I'm with, or things like that as well. Because one negative, as far as I guess it's not a negative, but one hurdle, if you're a team husband and wife, and then all of a sudden somebody calls and says, oh, we're going through a divorce, blah, blah, blah. Hey, here's the card with me and my wife on it. Don't really want to do that. So, I mean, we kind of take advantage of it where we can and use it where we can, and then, we kind of gear the other side as well.
So with ours, when I have a new tenant move in, we give them a welcome packet. On that welcome packet has a magnet that has my information and my wife's information. And when I deliver it to their home, I tell them what's in this little bag we call it a swag bag. We give them chocolates and a whole bunch of other stuff about Utah, but there's a magnet in there. And I tell them this goes up on your fridge. It has my information, but also has my wife's contact information for when you're ready to buy. Because we own the whole cycle. We own them from tenant to buyer to investor. And so we start them off with the proper expectations of what they're getting. And so they get us as a team. We also, when I'm out doing my quarterly inspections on the property, we have a newsletter, and on the bottom it has everybody on our team on what their roles are and what they do. So we're constantly advertising to our clientele. We have customer appreciation parties. So twice a year, we'll be sending out to anyone who's ever done business with us, all my investors, all my tenants, all my past tenants, inviting them out. So you guys want to come out on Star Wars Day, May 4th, and bring your taxes and any other things that you want to have shredded. We're going to have Princess Leia there. We're going to shred your stuff. And we've got our different sponsors, just like you guys have here, sponsoring this cap party. And so we're constantly advertising ourselves as a team and what we have to provide.
Cool, I love it. I exploit the hell out of it. She's more independent, but I'm like, hey, the best part of working with me is you get access to her. Terry knows, he's bought like 15 properties with me because he gets to talk to Lynn. So it works really, really well. There's a lot of wisdom up here, a lot of great, obviously we picked great panelists, didn't we? A lot of great insight, experience, and I'm sure there's some out here too. You're just down on the other side of the room, and we'd love to get to know you better. So if you gotta be somewhere, we're gonna cut this off, but if you can stick around, come up, talk to the panelists, get to know them a little bit better. Obviously drop off your little card thing to Heidi. She's got a little drawing going, but thank you for coming. This has been amazing, and glad you guys shared it with us.